Peter Fiducia's Woods and Water Big Game Adventures is brought to you by A1 Hunts Twin Lakes Outfitters, a moose hunting adventure you won't forget. Arctic Cat, share our passion. Chestnut Hill Outdoors, home of the best food plot trees. Love Potion number 9, a fatal attraction of pheromones. Swarovski Optic, precision for the crucial moment. Tuckamore Lodge, an Orvis-endorsed salmon fishing lodge. Winchester Ammunition, deadly passion. And True Life Taxidermy.
Hello everyone, welcome to Woods and Water. This week we're going to be airing a program that we had on last year that I produced with Bob Wallace, who owns and operates Chestnut Hill Outdoors in the state of Florida. And Bob has a lot of different types of fruit trees that he sells, but he specializes in Dunstan chestnut trees. And I could tell you something, if you're planting food plots and you're not planting a variety of different trees, especially chestnut trees, you're making a mistake because these trees will draw in deer big time. What we're going to show you later on in the program is how these trees, after 1 year, we put them in last year, and here it is now, early October, and these trees in 1 year, and Bob said they would produce in 3 to 5 years, and he was exactly right. They actually was wrong. They produced in 1 year. This tree, and I'll show you more in here, this tree has about 14 chestnuts on it. Each of these husks can contain 1 to 3 chestnuts. Really amazing. And they're hanging on the tree in October, which makes it really beneficial for deer hunting, because in New York our season starts in October 1st, and that's when you really want any kind of a tract in a food plot, whether it's a traditional food plot or a tree or a chestnut tree or a fruit tree. If you're getting fruit trees, try to get the late dropping trees. That's late dropping fruit actually. We put in about, I don't know, 18 to 24 trees last summer. Since then we put in about 40 more. Since then, shortly after Bob left, we put in about 40 more. And in 1 year, I'm telling you that 95% of those trees made chestnuts. We're going to show you a little bit about where we put them, talk a little bit more later on in the program, show you how they produced some of the chestnuts on the 4-year-old trees, made 3 chestnuts to each husk. These younger trees, which are only 3 years old, all have chestnuts. It's a terrific idea. You can't go wrong with Dunstan chestnuts. They're blight resistant, and that's important. So stick with us. After we get done with the program, or during the program, we'll show you more about how we place them in different areas on our farm in strategic locations to benefit our hunting and to benefit the deer as well. This week we're really happy to have Bob Wallace from Chestnut Hill Outdoors. Bob owns a big nursery, and he has an outdoor division where you sell chestnut trees, fruit trees, chestnut magic, correct?
All kinds of food plot trees for attracting deer and wildlife.
Yeah, and that's what this program's all about. Normally we do our food plot segments, my food plot book. It's all really basically the traditional type of food plots, the clovers, the brassicas, the small grains, right. All that type of thing. Yep. But what we really lack is giving information to people about trees, although there's a really nice chapter in our book about that. Yes, so often it's overlooked. And trees are an important element. And some advice before we get into what we're going to do here. Let's say you have a place that you want to put in some trees. If your neighbors have apple trees, put pear. If your neighbors have pear, put apple. If they have pear and apple, put peach. Put something on your property that someone else doesn't have close by to you. And you're going to find that that's going to be a magnet to draw in deer. But if you really want to improve your property, your overall program of planting food plots, you have to seriously consider chestnut trees. And chestnut trees have been indigenous to the Northeast and New England, and even further than that for I can't say more than, I guess I can say more than 100
years. Oh yeah.
I was going to say more than 10,000 years, but 1,000,000 years. There you go. And so it's a natural for anyone within that zone. And that's why I asked Bob, who is an expert in this, to come up and talk to us about this and to help us plant a few trees in order for me to learn a little more about it. Even though I think I know enough, I can never know enough. You could always learn more.
Absolutely.
And this guy goes back to his father doing it and his grandfather doing it. And so I've got an expert, you know, I'm going to learn. And I'm going to share that with you today.
This segment of Woods and Water Big Game Adventures has been brought to you by A1 Hunts Twin Lakes Outfitters, a moose hunting adventure you won't forget. Welcome back to Woods and Water. This segment is brought to you by Winchester Ammunition.
One of the things I want to be sure I get out about chestnut trees, Bob, is their ability to draw deer. And you have had experience in a lot of different states other than New York. And what are you hearing?
As a food plot tree, chestnuts are the single best tree for attracting deer. Of course, they were the original hardwood tree, the majority of the forest throughout eastern United States, and they were killed by disease in the early 1900s. The chestnut blight, introduced accidentally from China. My grandfather was a plant breeder, and he bred a chestnut hybridizing a single America tree found in a grove of dead ones, still alive, with Chinese chestnut. The blight came from China, so Chinese chestnut have resistance.
Right.
By crossing the two, he came up with a hybrid that not only has blight resistance, but has good tree form and big nuts. And
that's what I call big nuts. Oh my goodness, look at the size of that.
We've been selling trees to orchardists for 30 years. The biggest problem the orchardists have is the deer are eating all their harvest. Guys are having to fence 50-acre orchards to keep the deer out.
And that turned the light on.
And that was the aha moment that there are a lot of people out there who want to attract deer to their property. So there's a lot of advantages. You plant an oak tree, it could take 10, white oak, 20 years before you see your first acorn.
A minimum.
So chestnuts will bear, a 1-year tree will bear in 3 to 5 years under good conditions. By 5 years, you're going to start to get harvest. And we've seen orchards in Connecticut, this far north, this cold in Pennsylvania, in Pike County, Illinois, and throughout the rest of the United States, that they're producing 10 to 20 pounds of nuts per tree after only 10 to 12 years. It's hands down.
There is no doubt in my mind about that. I mean, it's an easier nut to break through, it's a tastier nut, it's less tannin, the whole bit. Well, you know, one of the most important things about planting anything, whether it's a food plot, whether it's trees, you got to be prepared.
Got to have all the tools.
And you have to have everything laid out prior to going up and doing the work. Not every food plot has to be alfalfa or clovers or brassicas.
Chestnuts are a really unique tree from a number of reasons. And not only did deer evolve with chestnuts over the last million years as their primary food source during the rut, during the fall harvest season, the nuts are high in carbohydrate, they're high in protein, they have more carbos and more protein than acorns.
We're excited about this. Well, we hope you're enjoying the program. Just a short break here to show you. This is another 3-year-old tree. It's in the ground 1 year. And you can see all the husks right here that contain chestnuts inside of them. Really unbelievable to see a tree produce this many. I'll show you a couple of more trees a little bit later. Some of them have 20 to 25 husks containing 1 to 3 chestnuts in them each after 1 year. It's really been an overwhelming success. I'm so happy with this that I want to share it with everybody I can, because these trees are really going to be unbelievable when they're 4 or 5 years old. I can't imagine what they'll do at that point.
Water is the essential key part about
life.
Planting of everything. And about planting trees. You have to water them in at planting. And if it's not raining, you need to be getting 5 gallons or more of water per tree per week if you possibly can.
Okay.
You know, if you put them out and you don't water them, and we have a dry summer like 2 years ago, you're going to lose your investment.
And look, it's farming. I don't care if you're planting food plots, traditional food plots with the brassicas and the small grains and the clovers and the legumes, you can lose a plot.
This segment of Woods and Water has been brought to you by Swarovski Optic. See the unseen.
3 of the 17 trees that we're going to plant right here. What I did to prepare for this plot is I took an area that's not so far away from our house and our shed, a couple of 100 yards. Our shooting shed for our shooting range is behind us, but we get the deer all through here. I have a lot of food plots all through here. There's chicory right out there and clover there. The point is there's a lot of food plots up there. I don't need more attraction there. So I want them down in here. And that's important. When you're putting in your trees, think about these things. South is this way, so I'm going to put them on the hill. We got good drainage coming off this hill, so I know they'll get plenty of water here.
Chestnuts are susceptible to root rot, so you want to keep them in an area that has good soil drainage. The side of this hill is absolutely perfect. Good sunlight, good
I did
soil.
My homework. I read your website. I read the instructions.
A lot of good information on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important. These, by the way, are what, 8-10-foot trees?
And they are, this is their third leaf.
Third leaf.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can see that a few of the trees actually have flowers starting to come out on them.
Yeah, I was really disturbed when they got hit by that hail, but
they'll come back from that. Once they're in the ground and the roots root in,
right,
they'll put out another flush of growth and they'll be fine.
We're going to start marking our trees so that when I'm done with this, it's going to not only look nice, but it's going to be I'm going to be able to get in to mow it, keep the competition of the grass down, all that kind of thing. And if you're looking for these chestnut trees, by the way, something we didn't mention before, you can find them in Walmart and all the other places you mentioned.
A lot of feed and seed stores.
3-gallon, 5-gallon, and that's
7, and we also grow trees as old as 4-year trees in 30-gallon pots, and even some larger stuff that's already in production. So you can get directly from our farm.
Personally, I would spend the money to buy a 7 to 30-gallon.
Even a larger tree, right?
A larger tree, you're going to get chestnuts in 3 years.
Or maybe even sooner.
Maybe even sooner. So there you go. It's worth the dollars and cents if this is going to be an important part of your food plot management program. Hi folks. Well, since that earlier opening, I re-injured my back. I've herniated 3 discs and getting around has been terrible, and scheduled for surgery actually. And so what we're going to do is pick up where I left off, and basically we're showing you some areas where we've planted chestnut trees. This is an open area, again in a field, has some chestnut trees mixed with pears and fruit trees, and we do that in our fields, and we put them close to wood lines a lot of times so that when adult bucks come out, mature bucks, they're only a few short jumps to get back into the woods. If you don't have fields to plant, chestnut trees are excellent in the woods. We do that throughout our woods. We've got about, I would think 36 trees anyway, planted 2 or 3, 4 sometimes together, and in different locations. It's an excellent plan, whether you have fields like I have here that I put clover and chicory in near the chestnuts or not. So if you don't have fields, no problem. Chestnut trees, Dunstan chestnut trees will do it for you. All right, let's lay it out. An angle this way?
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay. There you go.
All right.
Okay, those are the 3.
There's 3.
And
the 4th one in.
if you don't mind, I want to mark them because
Keep going.
I'm gonna keep planting them.
Yep. Hold tight, Bob.
This segment of Woods and Water Big Game Adventures has been brought to you by Chestnut Hill Outdoors, quality Dunstan chestnut and fruit trees. Welcome back to Woods and Water. This segment is brought to you by Arctic Cat. Share our passion.
This is another area where we've planted some chestnut trees. There's 6, half a dozen 7-gallon 3-year-old trees here. Next year, I planted these this spring. Next year, they'll make chestnuts for sure. Think strategically when you're placing them, whether it's in the woods or in little openings like this. Behind me is a 10-acre bog we have on our land, a swamp, and it really draws a lot of deer in from that area and the surrounding woods. really think about where you're going to put these trees. Keep wind direction in mind. That's very crucial. And put your blinds far enough away from the trees that you're not right on top of them. Okay, here we go. What we want to do now is just widen the hole a little bit.
It's just beautiful soil. There's some roots there that have hit the side of the pot. You can see those young feeder roots. Those are good there.
The ones on the bottom?
Yep. Those white roots, that's where all the nutrients are absorbed from.
Okay.
This is pretty typical soil for Pennsylvania, New York. And you know, this is all native chestnut country.
What I like to do is use the back of the shovel to create the dam.
The key element here is you want to get all the air pockets from around the roots. Take your shovel, just kind of work it in. It's called mudding it in.
Okay.
And if those air pockets will stop those young roots from growing. The same thing. Challenged.
Okay.
And that, Mr. Fiduccia, is all it takes. And even if you don't have a cage that is this tall, it still gets it above the browse line so that you've got the deer are not chewing on it. So you be real careful with herbicide, especially Roundup, on a young chestnut tree. The grow tubes protect it really well for Roundup at an early stage. Right. Because what happens inside that grow tube is that it actually collects the moisture that breathes off the leaves at night during transpiration. That's part of the photosynthetic process. Right. And that moisture condenses on that tube and recycles back down to the roots.
I think we have really started something here on our farm that's going to turn our attracting of deer into chestnut magic.
Absolutely.
You know, not the chestnut magic of the bag, but chestnuts from these trees. It's going to help. It's going to draw bucks that I know they're not going to get the chestnuts anywhere else.
Even if you have a small piece of land and you're surrounded by other farms,
it works.
You have a 5-acre backyard and you plant an acre of chestnuts out there.
Right. You know,
you're going to be the only one around. They're going to come to your property even with a little piece of land.
I can't tell you how many people tell me about planting food plots. I only have a total of a ½ acre. Well, take that ½ acre, divide it in half, right? Do a couple of little small plots on one side of it and put a few chestnut trees in on the other side of it, or maybe even on the whole thing.
Plant them around the perimeter.
4 corners.
Right, put them around the perimeter.
Now, you've got a plot that's going to be a perennial.
Absolutely. No, that's correct.
Okay, well, there you have it, folks. What Bob's doing right now, he's putting some water into the bucket that I drilled a hole in. And as you can see, that water is just dripping out of there at a very slow pace. And now I can come up here and water these trees by taking the water, putting it in the tractor, coming up, filling these like this, and I got 5 gallons of water going into that tree. And this whole process went pretty smoothly, from the drilling of the holes in the field here to putting the wire down. We used plastic ties to hold these together, and we got a professional look and setup here. And I appreciate everything you've done.
This has been a real pleasure to be here.
Including coming all the way up from Florida to do this with us.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. I'm happy to be here. So
thank
you have a beautiful piece of land.
Well, I wanted to show you one more place where we've put chestnut trees. This is a 4-acre plot. It's surrounded by woods on all sides. And what we're going to plan to do, obviously, is have these chestnuts draw deer into this area because they'll feel so safe coming from the woods. I've got winter clovers here, swede there, groundhog radish. So there's a lot of things that'll draw them in here, but nothing will draw them like these chestnuts. In 5 years, there's going to be a beautiful little grove. You want more information about Dunstan chestnut trees? Contact Bob Wallace at Chestnut Hill Outdoors, or you can contact me at peter@fiducia.com, or visit our website at deerdoctor.com. Take a look at our videos on deer calling, how to use scents, and a lot more.
You can eat it, but traditionally the chestnut tree is called the bread tree because the nuts are used like bread.
Amazing tree.
Chestnut makes good beer too.
Chestnut does?
Chestnut beer is a very common beer in the mountains in Italy.
Wow.
And
my ancestors know their stuff.
With the game on the land,
Peter Fiducia's Woods and Water Big Game Adventures is brought to you by A1 Hunts Twin Lakes Outfitters, a moose hunting adventure you won't forget. Arctic Cat, share our passion. Chestnut Hill Outdoors, home of the best food plot trees. Love Potion number 9, a fatal attraction of pheromones. Swarovski Optic, precision for the crucial moment. Tuckamore Lodge, an Orvis-endorsed salmon fishing lodge. Winchester Ammunition, deadly passion. And True Life Taxidermy,